strange articles that you might have missed in the news. Today we'll be covering UFOs and politics, Bigfoot, and so much more. Let's get straight into it. Of course, we're starting off with UFOs and the latest things that politicians are saying about it. Do their words hold any merit when it comes to this topic? And while our answers might vary, them just talking about it publicly is making a very big difference in the conversations that we're able to have right here, right now. So let's kind of talk about this article. Actually, it's two articles in one segment because they do work hand in hand, and all the articles that I cover, those links will be in the description box below. If you watched Strange News last week, it was heavily focused on the latest information coming out about UFOs, and I had stated that the timing has been very interesting, that one by one, we're actually getting bombarded with UFO news, which you and I love. And yet it's a little bit odd, especially when the Senate debates to propose legislation about investigating UFOs properly. In a recent Nevada Senate debate, candidates engaged in a discussion about the possibility of a congressional investigation into alleged Pentagon-run UFO programs. And this is really kind of jumping on the bandwagon from what David Grush had said last year about reverse engineering programs. And then you also have the Immaculate Constellation that was released by the public, which is Michael Schellenberger. So all of this is really hitting the public like a storm, and politicians are now being questioned on these things very seriously, I think more so than previous years. Democrat incumbent Senator Jackie Rosen, who serves on the Senate Armed Services Committee, voiced her support for such oversight, talking about UFOs, highlighting Nevada's connection to Area 51 and determining that these programs need to have a form of legitimacy. And she stated, quote, "I do think it's important to see what we're doing here and if there's any merit to this, underscoring the need for Congress to exercise its oversight role in government programs." We've been hearing this a lot lately, especially from representatives like Tim Burchett and Paulina Luna and a few others, where it seems as if these senators and representatives don't feel like they have the real power when it comes to their form of oversight, especially on the topic of UFOs and these alleged government-funded UFO programs as well. Her Republican challenger, Sam Brown, while expressing curiosity about the subject, did take a different stance, and he suggested that controversial billionaire and SpaceX founder Elon Musk might be a more trustworthy investigator than Congress, reflecting a skepticism about governmental bodies handling such sensitive investigations. This is also something pretty important to mention because there are these two camps here. Those that want to see the government run these programs and make that information public, or having these private corporations, these private industries to run their investigations and hopefully make that information public. But here is the difference between the two. With the government, you are able to file FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests. When it comes to a private company, they own all that information and they are not required to share that information with the public. And that's where it stands different there. But aside from that, I can understand the optimism with these private companies such as SpaceX to run these investigations, because they hopefully don't have the same level of bias and protecting information as the government. So I would like to ask you, out of these two, which one would you prefer, a private company or the government to run these programs and to hopefully, again, make that information public? Let me know in the comments below. And this is all unfolding rather nicely because just to add to this layered cake that we're making, U.S. Senator Jerry Moran has announced plans to introduce in response to alarming reports of unidentified aircraft hovering over military bases. And this has become prevalent information in conversation after the Wall Street Street Journal released a report last week talking about how the Langley Air Force Base in Virginia got this swarm of, quote, drones over the military base for 17 days. It was so significant that the Pentagon had meetings with the FBI and President Joe Biden, along with that the F-22 fighter jets were unable to intercept the drones, and practice in the area, the training, was also canceled. So were they actually drones or something more nefarious? People are really asking this question, and for those that have been following this topic for some time when it comes to UFOs, there is a rich history when it comes to these UFOs and them hovering over military installations, but very specifically, or at least more heavily on these military installations that have nuclear weapons as well. So I find it prudent that Jerry Moran is also talking about this and stating we need to get more information and we need to have more protocols when such things happen. Because right now, it seems from the public eye that we don't really know how to manage it. A few months ago, the Department of Energy did have a congressional hearing, and Anna Paulina Luna was there, and she had asked the secretary at the time, asking, what are your protocols when UAP hover over these nuclear facilities? And she says, I can answer that behind closed doors. That is a statement in itself, but the secretary was unable to answer that in a public setting. So there are protocols. You and I just don't exactly know what they are. And it seems like senators and representatives, many of them also are in the dark like us. This proposed legislation by Moran aims to address a critical gap in current protocols, and while the FAA prohibits drones from flying over military bases and other DoD facilities, the paradoxical reality is that shooting them down is also against the law. So this legal conundrum leaves military leaders in this precarious position, lacking the authority to engage potential threats until they pose an imminent danger to personnel. And it just seems like this very odd loop going on. Like, yes, you can look at them, yes, you can state that they're there, but you actually can't do anything about them unless it poses a threat to personnel. That's kind of a bummer, really. Quick announcement, I'm going to be hosting a live get-together where we are able to share our own experiences, play trivia games, and win merch. That will be for all of my Patreon members on November 9th. If you don't want to miss it, that link will be in the description box below. I think you want to hear this next one. Consistently, there are surveys being done on which parts of the world have the most UFO sightings. When it comes to the United States, it seems that California and a lot of the West Coast has a sufficient amount of UFO sightings, and then also near the East Coast as well. Really anywhere that's close to water seems to have a lot of UFO sightings, but when it comes to North America, Canada seems to be left out. So Casino Canada analyzed data across the US and Canada, obviously, to see where these hotspots are. And what they came across using the National UFO Reporting Center as their database, looking between the years of 1974 and 2024, they realized that Ontario is the UFO capital of the country with one sighting per every 677 people. And then Alberta ranked second among Canadian provinces and territories as well. So if you are living in any of those pretty populated places in Canada, maybe, just maybe, you might see a UFO, which I think is very exciting. And in the comments below, let me know where you had your UFO sighting and what year it took place. I would absolutely love to know. But you know what else is super cool? Super duper cool. Is being able to communicate with others while you're sleeping. There was this study done, decades ago, where people would bring twins into a laboratory and see if they could communicate through their dreams. And I actually knew a set of twins. I knew a handful, but I knew one set of twins that I was friends with one of them. And she had informed me that in, I want to say like middle school, they had a conjoined dream where they were having like some kind of tea party together or something, and they both remembered that dream once they woke up. There has always been this fascination with twins, and while that isn't fully relevant to this article, I think it was worth mentioning. But the REM Space, a California-based startup, claims to have achieved the first two-way communication between individuals during lucid dreaming. So you don't have to be twins to do it, anyone can do it. An experiment reminiscent of the movie Inception, the company reported using specially designed equipment to exchange a message between two sleeping participants in separate homes entirely. And the technology involved a server, an apparatus, Wi-Fi, and sensors to track brain waves and biological data. When one participant entered a lucid dream state, a random word was transmitted to them, which they repeated in their dream, and then the message was then stored and later transmitted to the second participant when they entered a lucid dream state. This is so cool in so many ways, especially because we easily sleep anywhere from 7 to 10 hours every single night. For some people, that's classified as wasted time. So what if you were able to maybe even have meetings in your sleep? That would be so efficient. Or you could travel, wherever you want to travel in the dream state, or create your own world as well, whatever your heart desires. But having the ability to have such technology to do this for those that are unable to naturally lucid dream or naturally astral project, I think it's very promising. Of course, it obviously depends on whose hands it's in, because it can be used very positively, but there's also very dangerous implications to this because you are very vulnerable in your sleep, which I understand that. And so I think that at the end of the day, it's really just going to depend on who's using this technology, how is it being used, and how can it benefit humanity versus harm them. When we think about harm, there is this level of fear sometimes when people allegedly encounter Bigfoot. They're like, this creature is 7, 8, 9 feet tall. They're super hairy. They're incredibly muscular. They're super good at hiding. All these different factors can definitely scare somebody. And this person I'm going to mention to you was no different. A Peoria truck driver named Gary Rutherford Jr., while transporting mail for the U.S. Postal Service in rural central Illinois, reported a possible Bigfoot sighting back on October 5th, and Rutherford claims to have seen a large brown furred creature standing on two legs along Route 9 between Glassford and Canton at around 6 a.m., and he estimated that the creature was about 8 feet tall, with glowing orange yellowish eyes that locked onto his while he was driving his 24-foot long truck. Whenever you lock eyes with someone, maybe even something, it can be a little nerve-wracking, and sometimes when they look at you, their thoughts are just running like crazy. Imagine if Bigfoot locked eyes with you while you were driving down the road, and they thought, I want to go. I want to learn how to drive a truck. How does that even work? Why are you so small and this vehicle so big? How is it moving? Why is it making that weird sound? And where can I go to get one of my own? But in all honesty, if that were to happen to me, if I were to see a Bigfoot on the side of the road locking their eyes with mine, I would actually slow down just a little bit, grab out my phone, take a little click, click, snip, snip, right? And then drive as fast as possible as soon after that. That'd be kind of fun. Now, as for Rutherford, he was very troubled after the encounter, and he did share his experience online, which caught the attention of Bigfoot investigators, and the sighting has since gone viral, featuring in a TikTok video with about 300,000 views and numerous comments from others claiming very similar experiences in the same area. That's great collective information. That is a great way to collect data, is when some people share their own experiences and then other people place a comment and state, I've actually had something very similar happen to me not too long ago in that same area. That's brilliant. We live in such an amazing time to where we can do things like that. What's important to note here is that Rutherford didn't state that he saw a Bigfoot, but he was kind of alluding to that as a possibility, which I think in some ways is a great way to go about it. Out of all the articles that we covered today, which one was your favorite? Let me know in the comments right down below. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, as I do several shows a week right here. That is it for today. I will see you next time. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies. If you enjoy the strange and the mysterious, UFOs, the paranormal, and cryptids, this channel is for you. So make sure to subscribe, as I do 3 videos right here every single week, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of the bonus content I post right here.